Hi, everybody. Molly Oyua here with Sacred Fire Creative. And today my guest is Julia Williamson. Hi, Julia. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So,
Mm,
and we were talking before, we jumped on the camera about decluttering during COVID-19 and how tricky it is because there's no place to really drop off your, you know, goods that you don't want anymore, right? So,
Right,
we're going to talk about
exactly.
what people can really do during this time to declutter without actually, taking
Getting
their
rid of stuff,
things
yeah.
other
Well,
than
I mean,
throwing
if
it
you're
in the trash.
fortunate, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm speaking over you. If you're fortunate enough to have, a garage or something, you can always kind of create a staging area, right? And collect things and put them in that area for later.
Right.
But there are lots of things you can get rid of that are not donations. And I think like one great place to start is in the pantry, where people are probably spending a lot of time right now anyway, doing all their amazing COVID cooking.
Uh-huh.
And you might want to go through your spices and look through your condiments and all those things that you don't use super frequently that may be getting old and funky and dusty and not really very edible anymore. And it's a great time to clean out the freezer. And that's stuff you're going to compost or throw away and recycle the jars. And you can make a lot of headway there without needing to donate.
Yeah,
Another,
so what's interesting is that whenever I get people on here, and that's your expertise, but you just kind of breeze right through it. So let's slow it down.
okay,
Let's slow it down a little bit because
good
we have the
idea.
time. And so we're here live with people. We just mentioned that one first place to check is your pantry. I know that my husband and I have done this. We kind of look through, we look at dates, and we're like, wow, this is something that we just never used. So we can toss it. So you mentioned spices. What are some
Oh,
other
yeah.
things in the pantry that, maybe go kind of under the radar that we need to look out for?
Yeah, I think baking supplies is another
Mm,
one. And I know a lot of people are into baking right now and maybe finding, cans of baking powder from the teens. Been sitting
that
around
actually
for a long
happened.
time.
We had some baking powder and I used it in a recipe and it didn't work.
Right.
So, old baking powder does not
Yeah.
count, or baking soda or whatever it is that, you put into the recipes. I just follow the recipe, so I don't know exactly what all the ingredients do. I just know when they don't actually work.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but definitely COVID-19 has brought about this baking renaissance. I know a
I
lot
know
of
people are
people are
crazy for it.
posting what they're cooking and what they're baking, and people who, I mean, I don't even know if they were baking before COVID-19, but now it's definitely on, right? So I
Yes.
love it.
We
We've
are now a
definitely been
country of
cooking
bakers,
for.
apparently. I don't bake myself, but I'm glad when people bring me things.
Oh, okay. So people are still bringing you some baked goods during COVID-19.
Well, I do have one. I have a small household, and I have my best friend lives by herself, so we've adopted her as part of our household. So
Oh,
we have kind of a two-house quarantine going.
that's
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
so that makes sense if you've already been self-isolating since the beginning, right? So it just seems
Yeah.
like natural. You've already been exposed, you've already been in contact. So I've heard a lot of families, doing different things, rearranging just because of COVID-19, but I wouldn't want to be isolated during this time.
I
So I'm
know.
super grateful for my husband. And I mean, we get to, say hi to the neighbors and chat with them from across the street and things like that.
I know. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
been hard here in Portland. It's been raining for the past few days, which has made it harder to kind of get out and be a, around people at a distance, I guess, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. So you're at home, you're going through your baking supplies, you're going through your spices. I know that that's something you mentioned. And what else is, I mean, I feel like
Oh, yeah.
cans
So
will last a
as long as
while.
we're in the kitchen, I think it's a great time to clean out your freezer, your refrigerator. I mean, who knows? I don't know. If you're like me, you put things in the freezer thinking, oh, I'm going to eat that next week. And then, months go by. And if you forgot to label it, who knows what it even is anymore. So great time to do that. Also, I would say, the one thing that you can still donate is food. All of the food pantries and food banks are really, they're having to do so much extra work now because so many people are out of work and really struggling. So if you find that you have non-perishable items that you don't think you're going to use, take them to the food bank. They will do a great job of making sure everything is handled safely and given to people who need it.
Okay. And is that something that you're doing in your household?
I haven't been actually. I'm sending them money because I
Yeah.
am a good shopper and I don't buy things I don't like anymore.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about when you're talking about the freezer going through your things. It's just maybe some things that you had planned to use that you're not using and you don't actually like it. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
I
saying there?
think, I think that it's, to me, part of sort of decluttering and household management is being real with yourself. Like if you're halfway through knitting a sweater and you just find that you don't love knitting anymore, don't put it aside thinking, oh, someday I'm going to finish the sweater. Just
Oh,
accept that you don't like knitting. It's okay and get rid of it. And if you made too much, lentil soup and it turns out you hate lentil soup, don't torture yourself by putting it in the freezer thinking you're going to eat it next week because you're not. Just compost it and write it off as an experiment.
I love these. So to me, when I hear you saying things like this, it's that marketing gold. So I'm always telling you, okay, this is marketing gold.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so you want to go ahead and grab those little quotes that you said and
Yeah.
use them in your social media marketing, use them on your website copy. They should be the kinds of things that your clients say to you,
Right.
or that they've experienced. Maybe that's kind of where you're grabbing it from. Is that from your own experience or maybe from a client's experience that you're finding these things?
I would say both. When I'm working with clients, often we get to sort of the craft area or the project area, and I
Yeah.
see that people have a lot of projects they've begun, or even, they thought they were going to paint a room, so they bought a lot of paint. And I think it's really hard for us to let go of the idea that we are going to finish things that we've started, or we are going to take on these projects. And I hear that a lot. And so I feel like one of my role is to say, it's okay. You're still a good person, even if you don't paint your walls, right?
Oh my
Not
gosh,
everyone
that is
has to
so
be a
great. I'm going
knitter.
to write that down. You're still a good person, even if you don't paint your walls. That's hilarious.
But
It's
it's so
hilarious, but it
true.
hits home, right? It's not like hilarious in that like it's not relatable. It's hilarious in that like we get that. Like there's something that, maybe we've put off or that we put to the side. And I think that to me is a lot of what I see in you and your business. Your role is to really point out that, hey, you don't need to be stuck in your own past. You don't need to
Right.
be,
Nicely put.
what was that?
That was very nicely put. You don't have to
Well,
be
and
stuck in
it's
your own past. I love that.
in a compassionate way because
Yeah.
we all are in some way. We're affected by our past. I'm not saying don't learn from your past. I'm not saying it doesn't need to affect you, but forgive yourself if it's something that you thought you were going to come back to that you're just not,
Yeah.
or maybe you can pick up some things that, you think, oh, wow, this is something that I could do during COVID-19. I know that a lot of people are really picking up some new hobbies. So that's possible too, but that's another way to look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So we're in the kitchen, we're going through the freezer. So in the freezer, is there like you're just looking at, expiration dates, or is this like something that you need to look out for?
I think anything that looks like it might have just been in there for too long, it's starting to get crusty, freezer burn, discolored, especially things that you've wrapped up yourself. Like if it's nicely sealed from the freezer section of the store, it's probably still in good shape. But
Okay.
anything that you've put into a Ziploc bag, once the air gets in there, it just is not as perfect.
Right. So it's already been opened and then
Yeah.
you put it into that Ziploc bag. That's
Right.
probably done
Or
for.
your kids didn't put it back properly. I have found not so much anymore, but in my freezer and refrigerator, I would find uncovered bowls of food just kind of shoved in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the things that we don't really want to eat.
It's a process.
They're just there. Okay. So So we're still in the kitchen. We're going through the freezer. We're going through the fridge probably, or,
Yep.
you're going through the pantry. So those are some easy places to kind of look. And then what you said about donating your non-perishable food to food pantries, because
Yeah.
people are even more in need now than they were
Yeah.
before. So this is
Absolutely.
a good time to be doing that. I know that in our family, my husband is bringing some food to relatives and things like that, and doing the drop it off on the front porch type of thing, social
Oh, that's so
distancing.
lovely.
So I think that that's something that you can do if you know somebody is elderly or not able to get around as well right now, especially during COVID-19. Then just be on the lookout. We're also on the lookout for our neighbors.
Yep.
So that's something. But I love that you, Julia, are the person to go to when people are feeling like it's almost like they need permission to release these things.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I love to talk to people about their obstacles. I think we touched on that a little bit last week. And one big obstacle is the sense of obligation. Like
Oh,
somebody gave this thing to me, so it would be wrong of me to get rid of it. And I think also keeping, maybe family memorabilia, that's a huge one. Holding on to things because of a sense of obligation. That could also be, oh, I spent too much money on this pair of shoes, so now I feel like I can't get rid of them, even if they hurt. I have to
ah,
get the value out of them. And I think, yeah, I love being able to tell people, like, those shoes hurt your feet, get rid of them now. Please do yourself a favor. Like, life is too short, right?
yeah. And
And,
I
and
would
it ties
say,
back to that. Like, I bought 3 gallons of paint thinking I was going to paint the living room. And if you're not, it's okay. And I think, generally that idea of you're still a good person. If you bought something that you're never going to use, if you spent
right,
too much money on something, it's just stuff. It doesn't make you a bad person.
right. I think it's interesting because what you're talking about to me crosses over into a lot of different areas. I actually don't see it as just a sense of obligation. I see it as maybe they have some nostalgia for the past with this person, or they were good friends with somebody, or their mom passed away and it's like a relic. So rather than obligation, I see it more like, yeah, that nostalgia or just the memory of that person and trying to honor them. So I think that there are different ways to kind of view why people are holding on to things. But
Oh,
the,
for sure.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, so, as my role of advisor and counselor and helper, I would never encourage someone to get rid of something that was meaningful to them that they loved, ever. But I think where it causes problems is if your mother passes away and then every single thing she ever touched suddenly starts to feel like a relic.
yeah,
I mean, it's funny. I tell people, like, look around your house right now, see what's in it. If you died tomorrow, would you expect your children to keep every single thing in here? I mean, I look around my house and I think, oh gosh, I hope they immediately get rid of half of it, right? Before they even start
oh,
thinking about what to keep. And I think when if you have an item that really reminds you of that person that you love, you like put it somewhere where you can see it every day and really be reminded of them. Because I think the
nice,
problem comes in when you have a garage full of old cardboard boxes with your mom's stuff in them that you never look at, you never appreciate. It just becomes this weight around your neck.
yeah.
And now you're not honoring your mother. You're just stressed out.
Yeah. So this comes to an interesting point because now I see part of your position as not declutter. It's not really about decluttering. It's about choosing what to keep and
Yes.
choosing what to honor,
Yeah.
and giving that priority. I think that that's just like my realization right this second online live.
I love it.
Well, I mean, because you pointed it out, and I love that if it's something that has meaning, but it's not everything that person owned in their whole lifetime. That's
Right.
not going to be helpful. But choosing the things that maybe were meaningful for them, or that bring you that memory and is meaningful, and really deciding to bring that out, like put it in a place where you can see it every day. I love that. So that's more gold, by the way, for you, Julia. It's very distinctive. I'm trying to figure out, like, so when I'm talking to people, oftentimes there are a lot of things, a lot, that sound like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
They sound like anybody could be saying that. Oh,
Right.
any organizer could be doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
this is not the case. So I'm always like picking out those things that I'm like, oh, you know what? You say that a little differently. Or,
Yeah.
you know, this is something that you've mentioned, like the sense of obligation, but it's actually a little different. And so I would kind of dig into that a little more for your own copy and your own social media, because even the word obligation, it's like, we know that anything we feel obligated to, we don't want to be beholden to. So
Right.
that's not something new, right?
Yeah.
But it's a choosing what is meaningful to give it space and to give it priority. That's different.
Yeah,
You see what I
absolutely.
mean? So just having that different perspective on what you do and how you help people. So,
I
okay.
do sometimes like to ask people, what's the one thing you would never get rid of? What's your favorite thing? Or what
Yes.
are your top 5 things in this house? If, you know, the house caught fire, what would you grab before you left? And then I say, and where are those things? Are they somewhere you can see them? Or are they like tucked away in a closet where they never see the light of day? Because if those are things that are meaningful to you, they should
Yeah.
be around you. You should be surrounded by things you love.
I love that. Okay, so that's great. What's the one thing you would never get rid of? And just being surrounded by the things you love is that's beautiful. So, all right. So, what else do you want to share with us today? So
Well, I
we're
will tell you, I
talking
had
about.
an interesting conversation with a women's group that I'm in, and we were all talking about how we're feeling about being on lockdown. And I kept saying, I love it. Like, I love being home.
You're
I'm
thriving.
happy to not have to leave my house very often. And finally, one of them said, well, isn't that kind of what you do, is make people's houses the place they want to spend time? And I thought, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that I've spent many years making this house into my refuge, my haven, the place where I really feel supported and rejuvenated and loved.
Yeah.
And so I thought about that. That is what I want for people. I want their house to be their favorite place in the world. And I mean, I would say right now, if you put me on a beach, I might be, you know, sunny beach, I might be a tiny bit. This is the place
Wouldn't like that, or you would? You wouldn't like that, or you would? What was the?
Oh, I was just joking that the only other place I would want to,
Oh, the only.
be right now is, you know, on a Hawaiian beach. But basically, this is the place I want to be.
Yeah.
And so that is my goal, is to help other people create this beautiful place of refuge where at the end of the day they think, oh, I just can't wait to get home because I'm so happy there.
Yes. I feel the same way. And besides which, the people. Oh, we lost Julia for a second. Hopefully, she'll come back. But I know that Hawaii is basically paying people to leave right now, so that's not an option for people. So unless you live there, in which case you're extremely fortunate too. I've definitely made my home my refuge and my haven, so I'm enjoying it. And we were just talking with Julia, and she lost connection, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for now. And oh, there she is. She's gonna come back.
Can you see me? Am I
I
back?
lost you for a second, but I was just gonna
It's so
wrap up.
weird. I was just sitting here and it just
Disappeared.
turned off or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, I was talking about how Hawaii is basically paying people to leave, paying tourists to go home. Go home.
Get out of here.
That in my home, we definitely feel like it's our safe spot, and it's so peaceful. It's so amazing to be home, and it just gets more and more amazing. It's springtime, so all the flowers are blooming, and they're coming up at different times. So it's just gorgeous right now. But yeah, so I do want to wrap up, and I know we have tons more to talk about, tons more to say each time.
Always more.
And
Yep.
we're going to be in this for a while. So we'll be back next week. And anything else you want to say just before we wrap up and say bye to everybody?
Oh, just enjoy being home as much as you can. I know it's not as much fun for everybody as it is for me, but find that spot in your house that makes you feel really happy and then go in there and close the door and make everyone else go away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.